As we pull forward from our exact starting coordinates and push the nose of the vehicle toward Midland Road, look directly out through the windshield and settle completely, deeply into your seat. We are embarking on an incredibly expansive, highly immersive, and profoundly detailed driving journey. We are about to cross one of the most historically consequential and visible boundaries in the entire geographic layout of the United States. We are leaving the massive, heavy iron and steel legacy of Pennsylvania firmly in our rearview mirror and descending straight into the rugged, fiercely independent clay, brick, and river-bottom grit of the state of Ohio. Look out at the deeply forested, shadow-heavy landscape pressing tightly against the very edges of the road. Right in this immediate vicinity, hidden just near the muddy edge of the dark, churning waters of the Ohio River, sits a quiet, unassuming stone monument that literally dictated the geometric shape of the entire American continent. It is known as the Point of Beginning. In 1785, under the direct visionary orders of Thomas Jefferson, a team of federal surveyors stood in the freezing, trackless, mosquito-choked wilderness right here and drove a heavy wooden stake deep into the ground. That specific, muddy spot became the absolute starting point for the public land survey system. Every single square mile of the American West, stretching all the way across the Midwestern plains, over the Rocky Mountains, and straight to the shores of the Pacific Ocean, was mathematically mapped, gridded, and sold from the exact coordinates established right outside your window. You are driving over the literal geographic threshold of the great American westward expansion. The invisible grid that tamed a continent was born on this exact pavement. As we cross the state line and seamlessly merge onto the westbound lanes of Ohio Route 39, running concurrent with United States Route 30, the sheer ancient geography out the glass completely dominates the vehicle. To your left, the massive dark water of the Ohio River cuts a relentless, prehistoric trench through the Appalachian Plateau. To your right, the steep, unforgiving, heavily timbered hillsides rise violently into the sky, threatening to spill rock and earth right onto the highway. This specific region is completely unglaciated. The massive, crushing Ice Age glaciers that flattened and smoothed the northern half of the state completely stalled out just a few miles north of here, leaving behind this chaotic, beautiful, and deeply isolating landscape of sharp, plunging ravines and massive, towering river bluffs. But unlike the previous river towns we explored that were built on the deafening, ground-shaking thunder of forging steel and pouring iron, the massive global wealth of the town we are rapidly approaching was built entirely out of dirt. We are driving directly into the city limits of East Liverpool, Ohio. For well over a century, this rugged, highly isolated river town held the undisputed, absolute title of the Pottery Capital of the world. Look at the heavy earth completely surrounding the highway, hidden just beneath the tangled roots of the ancient trees and the poured asphalt. This specific geographic valley sits directly on top of massive, incredibly rich, world-class deposits of pure yellow clay. In the 1840s, an English immigrant potter named James Bennett walked these muddy riverbanks, reached into the dirt, and recognized the absolute perfection of this soil. He combined that perfect clay with the easily accessible massive veins of Appalachian coal needed to fire the kilns, and utilized the massive liquid highway of the Ohio River to ship his fragile, heavy goods to the rest of the expanding country. If you were looking out this exact window in 1900, the skyline of East Liverpool would look like a terrifying, smoke-choked alien planet. You would not see towering glass skyscrapers or modern commercial office parks. You would see the massive, swelling, heavy brick domes of over 300 colossal bottle kilns jutting violently into the sky like giant beehives. The sheer scale of the manufacturing was almost incomprehensible. The air in this valley was permanently choked with thick, suffocating, acidic black coal smoke, raining heavy, gritty soot down on the intricate brick streets 24 hours a day. The sun was literally blotted out by the relentless exhaust of the kilns. The riverbanks were a chaotic, sprawling, deafening maze of heavy ceramics manufacturing. This single, geographically isolated town was producing over 50% of all the ceramics, dinnerware, heavy porcelain bathroom fixtures, and hotel china used in the entire United States. When wealthy families sat down to eat in high-end, exclusive restaurants in New York, Chicago, or San Francisco, they were eating their steaks off plates that were literally baked out of the soil you are driving over right now. The legendary Homer Laughlin China Company was born right here on these soot-stained streets, eventually growing into a massive, unstoppable empire that brought the iconic, brightly colored, heavily collected Fiesta ware into millions of American kitchens. As we follow the sweeping, elevated curve of Route 39, prepare to transition off the fast-moving highway. We are taking the exit toward downtown East Liverpool, gliding smoothly down the off-ramp, and making the deliberate right turn onto Washington Street. We're diving straight into the heavy, densely packed, incredibly historic brick grid of the downtown river core. Look at the towering, imposing architecture rising up on both sides of the street as we navigate toward East 5th Street and make the careful turn onto Market Street. This is not functional, lightweight, modern suburban construction. You're looking at massive, heavy, incredibly ornate brick and carved stone buildings. These massive structures, like the towering Thompson Building and the magnificent Carnegie Public Library, were built directly by the immense, unapologetic, staggering wealth of the pottery barons who ruled this entire valley like feudal lords. They poured their fortunes into building a downtown that rivaled cities 10 times its size. But the men, women, and countless children who actually worked the heavy clay through the pottery and fired the kilns lived a brutally hard, intensely dangerous, and tragically short life. Inside those massive brick bottle kilns, workers known as saggar makers and kiln firemen endured terrifying, blistering heat that regularly exceeded 2,000 degrees, shoveling raw coal into the fires by hand. Worse yet, the workers inside the factories suffered from a terrifying, highly lethal occupational illness known simply as potter's rot, a deadly, incurable lung disease caused by constantly inhaling the microscopic, razor-sharp silica dust that permanently hung in the unventilated air of the shops. It was a town of staggering industrial wealth built directly on the cracked hands, the failing, dust-filled lungs, and the absolute sheer muscle of a fiercely dedicated immigrant workforce. Thousands of these workers came straight from the historic, smoke-covered pottery districts of Staffordshire, England, bringing their ancient, closely guarded, centuries-old secrets of the potters will directly across the Atlantic Ocean to these specific Ohio streets. They unionized fiercely, creating the National Brotherhood of Operative Potters, fighting tooth and nail for survival in a brutal industrial era. Because it was a tough, gritty, highly isolated river town built entirely on backbreaking labor, it bred incredibly tough, absolutely unyielding people. As we navigate the downtown grid, turning left onto St. Clair Avenue and passing the address of 617, you're driving through the hometown of legendary college football coach Lou Holtz. He grew up in the heavy, working-class, soot-stained, structurally unforgiving neighborhoods of this valley. It was here that he learned the absolute, ironclad resilience, the relentless grit, and the unyielding work ethic that he would later use to drive the University of Notre Dame to a national championship. The hard-nosed, excuse-free nature of East Liverpool completely forged his demanding, legendary coaching philosophy. You simply could not survive the physical and economic weight of this valley without being incredibly tough. This exact downtown grid also played host to one of the most violent, bizarre, and heavily publicized spectacles of the 1930s gangster era. Keep your eyes on the historic brick buildings passing by your window as we roll through the center of town. In late October of 1934, just a few miles north of these streets in a desolate, freezing farming area near Clarkson, Ohio, the single most wanted man in America met his incredibly violent end. Charles Arthur Floyd, known to the world, the press, and the relentless agents of the FBI as Pretty Boy Floyd, was desperately on the run after a massive nationwide manhunt following the Kansas City massacre. Exhausted, heavily armed, and starving, he emerged from the dense woods into an open farm field, where he was immediately gunned down by a massive squad of local law enforcement and federal agents led by the infamous Melvin Purvis. But the terrifying, sensational story of Pretty Boy Floyd did not end in the freezing dirt of that Ohio farm field. His bullet-riddled body was dragged out of the woods, loaded into the back of a vehicle, and brought directly down the hill into this exact town, right to the historic Sturgis Funeral Home. The federal government wanted to absolutely, undeniably prove to the terrified American public that the legendary, mythic bank robber was finally dead. They stripped him, embalmed him, and put his corpse on massive public display right here in East Liverpool. The resulting scene was pure, unadulterated, terrifying madness. Over 10,000 people completely flooded the narrow brick streets you're driving on right now. Crowds were so massive, so chaotic, and so desperate to get a macabre glimpse of the dead gangster that they completely lost control. They physically pressed against the exterior of the building with such crushing, unified force that they literally snapped and broke the heavy iron railing right outside the funeral home. They had to move his body deeper into the building just to prevent a riot. It was a massive, incredibly dark circus of the Great Depression, and the heavy, chaotic, whispering ghosts of that autumn day are permanently etched into the sidewalks and the brick facades of the city. As we continue driving north on the asphalt of St. Clair Avenue, leaving the dense, heavy brick of the downtown river basin completely behind us, listen to the transmission downshift. The vehicle is forced to work against the absolute sheer gravity of the valley. We are climbing up and out of the deep river bottom, fighting the massive, steep, unrelenting geographic grades that define the brutal topography of this region. The tight, claustrophobic grid of the 19th century pottery empire slowly begins to pull back. The ornate, smoke-stained historic architecture falls away in a rearview mirror, and the landscape outside the windshield completely, rapidly, and permanently shifts. We are pushing our way up the long hill, driving onto the massive, sprawling geographic shelf known locally as Calcutta. Look out the windshield as the road finally flattens out, the sky widens, and the heavy tree canopy pulls back. You are witnessing the absolute, highly functional, undeniable reality of 20th and 21st century suburban expansion. The heavy historic brick of the river valley is abruptly replaced by the wide, sprawling, brightly lit commercial infrastructure of the modern era. We are cruising past highly functional strip malls, heavy-duty auto parts stores, massive corporate grocery chains, and local fast food franchises, passing the Pizza Hut Express on your right. This specific, grueling climb up St. Clair Avenue traces the exact, literal path of the post-war middle-class flight. As the massive, roaring bottle kilns down in the valley slowly went cold, as the Federal Clean Air Act shut down the suffocating coal furnaces, and as the great American pottery industry was utterly decimated by cheap, mass-produced foreign imports, the descendants of those tough, silica-breathing potters moved up here onto the plateau. They completely abandoned the dense, flooding, soot-covered neighborhoods of the riverbank. They traded the heavy brick history for the wide, manicured lawns, the sprawling, newly paved parking lots, and the heavy, undeniable commercial convenience of the Calcutta sprawl. The massive geographic and architectural transition you're looking at is the absolute definition of the modern Rust Belt survival mechanism, moving out of the decaying industrial trenches, climbing the massive hill, and completely adapting to the relentless, highly commercial, service-oriented reality of the modern highway corridor. We are on the absolute final stretch of our highly immersive, profoundly layered driving journey, holding our speed perfectly on the dark asphalt of St. Clair Avenue. Even up here, amidst the glowing neon signs, the modern gas stations, and the digital traffic lights, the heavy, towering forests of the Appalachian foothills still peek out behind the massive modern shopping plazas. They stand as a constant, silent, brooding reminder of the wild, untamed frontier that Thomas Jefferson's surveyors first laid eyes on just a few miles behind us. As the forward momentum of the vehicle finally begins to slow, the tires turning smoothly off the main avenue, and we pull into our exact destination at the Quality Inn at 15860 St. Clair Avenue, take a long, deliberate, final look at the landscape outside the glass. You have just traversed an absolutely staggering, massive timeline of the American Empire. You have crossed the literal, surveyed starting line of the western frontier. You have driven straight through the heavy, smoke-choked, incredibly wealthy global epicenter of the pottery industry. You have rolled directly over the very streets that forged legendary football coaches, past the violent, chaotic ghosts of the Public Enemy era, and climbed the steep, unforgiving hills directly into the sprawling, highly functional reality of the modern commercial plateau. You have watched the highly specific, deeply consequential, and incredibly gritty history of the Ohio River Valley completely unfold right outside your window.